guess it's good that it's comfortable enough that I don't notice it on sometimes. What's not good is that it is a bitch to get out or get off. There we go. Okay, there we go. Ding, 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 ding. Dingy, ding, 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 ding. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good evening, good day. Gonna be a short one today. I don't have a ton of time. A busy morning. Had stuff to do. Oh, god damn it. I meant to fling that onto the table and I overshot it. Thank you, baby. Do I cook? Only dope in the crock pot. Cooking up dope in the crock pot. Banging your bitch, she a thought. Are you going to prepare a statement for when the media calls you about no confidence? I don't think the media is going to be calling me anytime soon, bro. But if they do, I'll just answer their questions. I don't like prepared statements and shit. I don't like people that have to write out, like, the basics of their stuff. I'll just tell them what I believe. No confidence 2024, no confidence 2022. I see you were right about Vaj's speech reaction has based Biden in the title. Yeah, dude, based Biden. Gotta love it. Come to these streams for the chill vibe, but I stay for the conversations. Oh yeah. There's so many people pissed off about no confidence. I love the incitement, but they're so pissed. We talked about it last night. We discussed what I think is behind the insanely overblown, almost hysterical reaction that people have had to this in the community. And the basics of it are fear. People see someone who shares maybe 90 to 95% of their goals, but they see that person taking a different path. They see that person deciding not to walk the straight and narrow path that's gotten us nowhere for his whole life, but kind of deciding to wander off down a rocky, unpaved road. And that makes them afraid. Makes them afraid that they're going to have to walk down the road too, and it makes them afraid that other people are going to walk down the road and make their strategy of the straight and narrow not all that viable anymore. I mean, it is what it is. It's expected. Let's put it that way. Expected. New ideas, new tactics, different ways of thinking about old problems, especially in the political sphere, are some of the scariest things that you can approach people with. Some of the absolutely 100% most frightening things that you can approach people with. Because people become so invested in the easy road. Their brain kind of like contextualizes that the world is ending, but they have to believe that there's a shiny, easy, well-paved, straight road from world almost ending to everything being okay. And when you step in as a person who believes a lot of the same things they believe, and you tell them that you don't believe that part of it, you don't believe that there's an easy, straight, simple, go down and vote and then turn your brain off type of way to make change, it evokes a fear response, like engages the part of the brain that's normally reserved for fight or flight. There's also an ego component to it as well. Like there are people that put a lot of fucking ego behind their political positions, and when they hear somebody refute those political positions or challenge those political positions, the response is immediate anger, and behind that anger, fear. So that's why, in my opinion. Baby, baby, sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, baby, slow down. You'll sit down now? Yeah, you probably should. Have a seat. Whether you agree with no confidence or not, it's a hell of a social experiment. Yeah, I mean that's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of people that are against the idea of performing experimental leftist action, like engaging in it, because they're afraid of the experimental part, or the experiment won't work, or the experiment is, you don't know until you try. One of the most frustrating arguments against no confidence that I go up against, interestingly enough, isn't like character assassination and deliberate misunderstanding. It's people who are seemingly ignorant about the fact that in order for me to provide them with statistical data about something like I'm talking about working, we have to try it first. They'll ask me like, "You have any citations or sources or theory that says that what you're doing is correct and possible?" I'm like, no, not really, because people like you prevent it from happening over and over and over again. You shame the people that decide to take part in it, and you marginalize them. Sorry to say it, Paul, but I can say you were 100% on the mark with your prediction with Vosh praising Biden's speech to Congress. Of course I was. Why wouldn't I be? Why would I be wrong about that? What about his content, or people that make content like him in the bread tube sphere, led you to believe that he would be critical of Biden? Thanks, fanatic monkey. You think that Vosh is a liberal plant? A liberal plant? No. No, I don't. I don't really think so. I don't want to sound anti-science here, but the powers that be really enjoy the idea of needing a peer-reviewed study to question their authority. This isn't particle physics; it's dirty politics. That's a good point as well. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily bad to ask somebody like, hey, man, you got any precedent for this? Or hey, man, you got any examples of this working here in America? But when you're doing something that has never really been tried in the lefty sphere, you can't really provide that. I'm asking people to try something different other than the same tactics that their parents and grandparents used. I'm saying that the problems that face the world have ramped up to a point where we can no longer kick back and cross our fingers and vote for oppressive people and hope that things are going to get better. All right, baby. I love you. Be careful, okay? I love that lady. She's the best. What you doing, D? You gonna watch your mama pull out? You gonna watch your mama pull out a garage? Yeah? That you playing? That you playing? You gonna watch your mama go pull out a garage? I haven't watched the stream yet, so you know what I mean. I'm allowing people to have their takes and kind of trusting that you know what their takes are real. But I, to be quite honest with you, I don't watch a whole lot of Vosh. I just don't. It's almost inescapable in the lefty sphere, but I just don't. Yeah, I mean, his arguments filter down to me through people that watch him and very poorly parse his arguments and throw them at me. I got to the point where I don't need to watch Vosh to know his take. Yeah, the predictability of this type of stuff, and I'm not, you know, I don't mean to just continually like Vosh. The predictability of this type of stuff is only going to get more and more apparent as you get older. Like, this isn't the first Vosh character that I've seen come around, right? Vosh isn't the first Vosh. I've seen these people before. Talk a big game, but at the end of the day, when it comes to encouraging people to do things, it's always just status quo leftist action. Nothing different, nothing new, no willingness to criticize the people that are doing harm to the country. In fact, seemingly the opposite, the willingness to contextualize and lie and reframe people's bad fucking decisions to make it look like that you were correct or that your position is correct. This happens all the fucking time. And for some reason, it's him who garners the biggest following. Well, I mean, unpack that. Let's be honest about like why this character in BreadTube has so many followers, and let's praise him at the beginning, right? Let's be honest. Let's be good faith in our arguments. The reason that Vosh has a lot of followers, or I think there's multiple angles to it. Number one, he's a very well-spoken and charismatic person, and intelligent as well. And that combination tends to garner an audience, right? You got somebody who's charismatic, well thought out, well spoken, clearly intelligent, clearly at least has a baseline knowledge of the concepts that he's talking about. This type of personality tends to draw people who aren't that, right? So props to Vosh on that. Like, you can't take that away from him. It's not like it's some kind of AstroTurf campaign that made him as popular as he is. He's popular because he's smart and affable and likable sometimes, I guess. And that type of personality, that's a shiny personality, right? It tends to draw people's eye. Another reason that I think Vosh is as popular as he is because he engages with the frustration that people on the left have. Young people on the left, particularly, have a great frustration with the absolutely glacial pace of electoral change, the absolutely glacial pace of, you know, the government in addressing the grievances of its people. And so Vosh speaks to that kind of rebellious nature. But the third reason that I think that he's popular is because he contextualizes all of that stuff and puts it into the framework of you don't really have to do anything. You don't really have to do anything other than listen to me and go and vote twice. And then you're done. And then you can just listen to me until next time when it's time for us to vote again, and then you can go out and do that and then come back and listen to me about how you did a good thing. So those are the three-pronged like Vosh popularity theory for me. He's smart, affable, intelligent, engages with the kind of malaise that's kind of fallen over young leftists, and then gives them a very easy answer to their questions. And that's about it. The perfect prophet. A guy who's going to tell you how it is, a guy who is going to share and help revel in the negativity that you feel and the angst and anger and disappointment that you feel in the people that are supposed to represent your political position. And then gives you a very super duper duper easy way to get out of it. If you could make one federal law or mandate to improve the country, what would it be? Probably something along the lines of publicly funded campaigns and the absolute and utter detachment of super PACs and corporate donations from the political process. Like, that's just off the top of the dome, but I have a feeling that that would be, if I could, like, with the stroke of a pen end one thing in America, it would be that. I would end the ability for corporations and special interests to purchase politicians. So how are you different from a Vosh fan who votes every so often? What have you done, and what do you do other than vote? Well, that's a good question. I'm assuming that you haven't been watching the last few streams where we've been talking about this, but I've started a little strategy that I'm encouraging people to engage in called No Confidence. I'm encouraging people to starve the DNC of votes and material support in favor of voting for down ballot initiatives that affect their local and state communities. And not another dime, not another dollar, not another vote for a DNC candidate. No more taking leftist momentum and turning it into do-nothing politicians. So I, in the next upcoming election and in every election from here out, will vote. I will vote party line no confidence. I will vote down ballot initiatives, and I will be absolutely bullhorn loud about doing it. That's what I do. I also talked during one of my recent streams about coming up with a plan to make a monthly donation to a nonprofit or mutual aid org that's completely politically unaffiliated, completely nonpartisan, and to make a big deal every time that I donate about making sure that people know that this is money that if we had an actual leftist candidacy would have went to that. This is money that could have gone to the DNC, was the DNC, representative of the people. So those are two tactics that I plan on engaging in outside of just showing up and voting and then contextualizing all of the bad things that the people that I voted for do. I hope that answers your question. Aren't you afraid the same would happen to the Dems lost to Reagan and Bush 3 times in a row? They thought Americans wanted more conservative politicians and moved to the right. George W. Bush served a single term, and I will remind you that this kind of boogeyman situation that people throw in your face about, oh, yeah, well, if you hobble the DNC, then the RNC is going to win multiple cycles in a row. We've already lived through that, and the world didn't explode. There have been multiple occasions where one party has won, more than one cycle in a row, and it hasn't changed a fucking thing. A lot of people will come back at you and go like, has it? Oh, no difference, huh? George W. Bush started Operation Desert Storm. And I'm like, yeah, and take a look at the fucking left and how every last one of them of importance voted for that. There was no anti-war left then. Well, for the time during RNC leadership, it does seem a bit more depressing than during DNC leadership. That should really be something that you think about. You should think about why you feel a sense of relief when Democrats take over the country, when the average poor, indigent, migrant, POC, LGBTQ person's life remains the same or gets worse. You should ask yourself why you feel a wave of delicious brunch satisfaction when a Democrat is elected over a Republican, because it's certainly not based in any kind of tangible fucking progress for people. Conservatives that I discuss no confidence with are absolutely befuddled. Everybody's befuddled by it. POC and LGBTQ lives have got way better under DNC. Foul. Citation needed. Because the type whose main focus is identity politics aren't the actual left. The left wing in America is non-existent for all intents and purposes. Not saying identity politics can't be valid. No, absolutely. That's why they're so useful. Identity politics and the social issues that surround them are very useful for both the left and the right wing, because they keep people engaged against one another while the same status quo economic and ecological policy goes forward. I have someone that I work with that came from Mexico, says she pays a little less to work in this country as opposed to Trump. I'm not sure how it all works. I'd have to look into it, though. You'd have to look into it. You'd have to look into the amount of deportations that Joe Biden has done, and his promise in the lead up to the election to the Latino community specifically to immediately order ICE to stand down and stop family separations and deportations. He wrote an executive order to that fact, and then immediately wrote a set of rules and regulations for that organization, ICE, and the Border Patrol, that undermined his executive order and took it right back to Bush, I guess you could say Bush, Trump era policy. So if I were you, I'd look into it. You shouldn't have to pay to come into this country and pay to work here, period. So I think the idea that Biden just lowered the price, I don't even know what he's talking about when he says the price of working here. It's funny how many friends I know would be totally on board with the no confidence thing. Well, spread it. Do you call yourself a revolutionary? No. I call myself a human being that lives in America. How's that? I'm a human being that lives in America and wants to see people helped. Because I know that people are starving and dying in the streets. People are being shot by police in the streets. People the world over are being exploited for my comfort. And I want that to stop. Might include things like getting the proper documents needed to start working in the U.S., sure. I wrote in Bernie Sanders, which is basically no confidence in 2016, and we got Donald Trump. That's not a world I want to live in. I wonder how you'd feel if you lived in 4 years of a world of Hillary Clinton's presidency. So would you call yourself a reformist? I don't call myself any kind of ist or ism, all right? Unless it's some kind of direct philosophical statement like I am a pessimist. When it comes to politics, ists and isms, distractions. She would have done a better job than a guy who can't read or drive a car. That there sounds like a crystal ball kind of statement that there's absolutely no way that you could know lest you're fucking psychic. And if you are psychic, we need you. People forget so quickly how shitty Democratic politicians are when a Republican gets elected. But if you abolish the DNC first, things will get much worse first. Have you ever heard the concept of it has to hurt if it's to heal? Have you ever heard the or the concept of the road less traveled by being harder but more fulfilling than the road that everyone else takes? This is what I'm talking about. This type of fear-based, fear-mongering stuff where it's like you act like 2 Republican administrations in a row are going to somehow fucking take America down a fascist rabbit hole or something when we've had that before and it hasn't happened. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous and it's fear-mongering. You don't poop on a wound? Who's arguing about pooping on a wound? I'm arguing to stop fucking sticking your finger in the wound, to walk away from it and allow it time to heal. People assume the DNC needs to be destroyed. They can reform themselves and advocate for leftist policy to get votes back before they are destroyed. Right. If they do that, I'll be a fucking DNC voter. They start actually delivering on any of the promises that they make to the American people. That's the point. You starve them until they either are completely and utterly ineffectual, or until you force them to start taking progressive action in this country. One of the two. Yeah. I'll go buy a fucking DNC t-shirt if they start doing that shit and start wearing it on my streams. Till then, though, no confidence. Your ability to feel like everything's okay is not, according to my philosophy. So your peace of mind in falsely feeling like everything's okay is not more important in my philosophy than the suffering of people caused by the very politicians and policies that you support. I'm sorry. I wish that I could make you comfortable. I wish that I could come in here and tell you that all you have to do as a leftist is show up and vote for that D. But you're not going to get that here. It has to hurt if it's to heal. Let's just negotiate with the tumor. Let's just negotiate and work with a malignant tumor in order to accomplish some nebulous goal in the future. It has to hurt if it's to heal. It has to be dealt with directly if it's to be cured. You're trying to work to fix issues? How? What have you done? What have you done to work to fix issues? What have you done for Haitian immigrants? What have you done for Latino immigrants? What have you done for asylum seekers? What have you done for the global south? What have you done for the environment? What have you done for poor and indigent and homeless people in this country? What have you done? You say that you're trying to fix things, but all you have done is voted for a rapist segregationist. So what else have you done? What else do you plan to do now that Biden's had 100 days in office and you know he's not on your side? What do you plan to do? Make excuses? Contextualize it? Or do you plan to make some fucking moves like you're a leftist? What have I done for any of those people? I've donated time, energy, and money to homeless charities, food shelters, no-kill shelters, all throughout my adult life. What have you done? I've made a commitment to continue doing that. What have you done? Where are you at? I bet you gave $5 to Bernie Sanders or something, didn't you? How's it feel putting that $5 right in Joe Biden's pocket? What have you done? What do you plan to do now that Joe Biden's had 100 days in office to piss all over your fucking ideals and your dreams and to piss all over the very self-same people that you claim to care about protecting? What do you plan to do? Vote for the guy again? Let's hear your plan. You're the one that came out here and said that you've been fighting to change things. How have you been doing it? What have you been doing? I donate my time and energy to get a female POC elected to the House of Representatives this year, Cori Bush. How's she done? How's the Global South doing because you got Cori Bush elected? How's the Global South doing because you donated time, effort, and money to a DNC candidate? How's the environment doing? How are homeless people in this country doing? How are the indigent in this country doing? How are the uncounted number of children who only get one meal a day because they get free lunch at school doing? How are they doing? And by the way, these are not problems that cropped up under Donald Trump. These are problems that remained existent all the way through both of Obama's terms, remained existent all the way through George W. Bush's term remained in existence all the way through Clinton's term. These are not brand new problems that have just cropped up in America. These are problems that pre-exist your strategy. So what have you done to stop them? Those problems have always existed. Yep. Don't you think we ought to address them, or at least try? No. Those problems have always existed, by implication always will exist, so just walk the straight and narrow path and pretend that you're doing something good. Listen to people who tell you that the balance of your political activism is going out and voting for somebody who is aligned against you. And then go back to sleep and feel better about it while the world still goes on turning and burning. Sounds like a plan. I would say Dems have good intentions if they actually intended to do anything good. That's true. Seems like every right-wing president gets closer to the Nazis. Godwin's Law, anybody? What happens when they finally refuse to keep elections going? Citation needed, anybody? Jesus fucking Christ, man. You can't just invoke Hitler and then point at the fucking Republican Party and go like, see? That's not the way it works, bro. You got to show me functional differences. You've got to show me that you are addressing the very real problems that face us as a species, not just as a country, as a species. The existential threats that we face as a species in the next 100 years. You need to talk to me about that. There's always that guy who's doing okay, so by default everything is okay. Hey, I'm that guy. I'm doing okay. I've got health insurance. I make enough money to make my bills and sock a little money away every goddamn month. I'm doing okay. Do you hear me saying everything's okay? I can think outside of my own experience, which is what a lot of people need to do. They look around in their house, they look around in their fucking community, and they say, I don't see any fires. Okay, everything fine. It's a fear-based position, like I said before. It's a fear-based position, and the result of years and years and years and generations of cyclical lesser of two evils voting and fear-mongering. What do you think the ultimate goal should be on the left? Do you think we need to overcome the capitalist mode of production and abolish class? I mean, if you're talking about like far future, like let's cross our fingers and hope, I'm for the abolition of all capital. I'm for the abolition of all forms of capital and all forms of trade. Those are my long-term fucking policies as a leftist. Those are my click your heels together and wish types of policies. I don't think that they're necessarily possible to attain in my lifetime, but I'll be goddamned if I'm going to step away from them rather than towards them as a leftist. Why abolish trade, though? Because it allows a form of capital to be formed by people who collect more goods than other people. It allows the same type of class-based issue that capitalism foments. It has to be abolished. Resource-based economy. Trade exists in nature, bruh. It's not going anywhere. Says the guy who's never willing to try anything. Thanks. Hey, thanks for that prognostication, bro. You just changed my mind. So how do we get raw materials? We're talking about a globalist society where there isn't capitalistic competition. So how do we get raw materials? The same way we get them today. How do we distribute them in a way that's way less about capitalistic profit and profiteering and more about the needs of people? Now, when I say abolish trade, I'm saying countries don't exist anymore. Remember when I said that this is a far-flung, click your heels together, leftist fucking ideal dream? That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the abolition of trade, the abolition of capital, and the abolition of borders and nations and nationalism. Then what about our trade between this world and others? Discover another world that wants to trade with us before coming to me with that dumbass fucking argument. How do you feel about the preservation of national/local cultures, even if borders are abolished? This is something that anybody that argues for the abolition of borders has to take a position on. And my position has been the same ever since I started calling for the abolition of borders and trade and capital years and years and years and years ago. And that is a globalist government must respect local rights. A globalist government has to have some sort of respect for the local culture of people, but also has to provide a baseline enforcement of human right. So I have no problem with people dressing, worshiping as they wish, keeping local cultures and traditions. In fact, the people that say that globalism wants to reduce and destroy all of that are ridiculous. So I have no problem with local cultures remaining intact. I have no problem with local cultures continuing to practice their religions and their traditions. I see no reason to worry about it. When I say abolish all forms of trade, let me tell you one of the things that I want to end when I take that tact, okay? Right now, under global capitalism, things are produced not to be necessarily functional, but to turn a profit. And this has led to something that is practiced all throughout industry called planned obsolescence. If you've never heard of it, I recommend that you look it up and read about it a little bit. Briefly, planned obsolescence means is that you take resources from the earth, right? Everything that we make requires us to take from something. You take resources for the earth and make a product that instead of being made to last and then be reused, recycled, you make it so that it lasts a couple of years and then breaks and then you have to buy a new one. And then all of that energy and labor and capital that went into the creation of that widget that you bought goes in the landfill. And all of that energy is wasted. All of that capital is wasted. It's thrown into a landfill. I advocate for the use of resources to build things that are not only meant to last, but meant to be replaceable and reusable. So that when something stops working, you don't just throw it in the trash. You take it somewhere or you give it to someone who makes it work again. make it like how things were back in the day. Well, I don't mean to back in the day, you guys, but there used to be a time in this country where things were made to last. Planned obsolescence came about as a result of modern advertising. So back in the day, if you go back into like the early 20th century and look at advertisements, advertisements were based around the functionality and long-lasting nature of a product. You need a pair of shoes. We build the pair of shoes that you'll have for the next 10 years. We guarantee them. Our shoes are more comfortable. Our shoes are this. Our shoes are a better investment for you. They'll last longer. They'll be more functional, right? Now, we don't sell people things on that basis anymore. We don't go to you and say, hey, our shoe will fucking last forever. Hey, our widget will last forever. We come to you and say, our widget will make you feel better about yourself. Our widget will make you happier. It'll give you a little dopamine hit to purchase it. Never mind the fact that you'll be throwing it in the trash in a year. Right? This is why I advocate for the abolition of trade, the abolition of all capital, and the movement towards a resource-based economy. And this is what my leftism is about. This is what my leftist advocacy is about. I know that I will never see that in my lifetime. I know that there's a possibility that something like that will never fucking come about, but I'll be goddamned if I spend my time as a leftist advocating for something that I know is walking the other direction, away from that. Not going to happen. Not interested. If you're confused by what I mean when I say resource-based economy, I would recommend that you take that term and type it into Google and read about what a resource-based economy is, particularly the works of a guy named Jacques Fresco, one of the biggest, most well-known proponents of a resource-based economy. I'm not going to sit here and spend the last 5 minutes that I have explaining the entire concept to you, but I would recommend that you read up on it if you're confused. It honestly seems like leftist isn't an accurate term for you anymore. Like you're so far past even the farthest left, maybe you're going forward. Whatever. Whatever, bro. I still use my grandfather's tools made in the 30s, not like the modern ones that don't last a fraction of the time. Absolutely. And do you think that's just because we forgot how to make a tool? No. That's because we realized that if we sell you a wrench and you've got to buy a new wrench 2 years later, we just sold you 2 wrenches. Right? What do you think the future is for low-lying nations like mine, the Bahamas? Because it seems like we're basically fucked. I mean, you people have been fucked for a long time. You're part of the global South, and your nation exists in the minds of Americans as a place for us to exploit, and use, whether it's for our entertainment or for our fucking products. Your people are not considered by the philosophy of my government. And that is one of the things that I fight for every single fucking day. Leftists have been asleep on the suffering in this world caused by the very self-same politicians that they support. I'm not asleep. I know how much suffering is going on in the global South, and I know what the causes of it are. I'm well acquainted with the subject. So I would say, yes, you're fucked. Sorry. If Paul's dream comes to happen, we'll need to find something to give people a sense of struggle to overcome hardcore hobbies or something. What about the struggle of maintaining a society that cares about you? You think that if we establish anything like what I'm talking about, that there won't be a constant attempt to undermine it by people? Constantly fighting to preserve it is what we will engage people with. Constantly fighting to expand it and make it better is what we will engage people with. But we have to get to that point first. One of the criticisms I hear of America being genuinely left and softer on the world opens up Russia and China to be more aggressive in our stead. Yeah, that's part of the problem, right? That's part of the issue of being better to the global south, is that we have to be defensive of the global south as well. We have to take up for these people. And the first step to that is to stop stepping on their necks. Thanks for the money, Hilly. I've got to go. I've got things to do today. Thank you for joining me for this quick one. I'll see you next time. Bye.